again, how many people are watching the English broadcasts? Okay, maybe 100 to 150,000. Okay, how many of those 150,000 are going to be posting on Reddit? And you do sort of have these orders of magnitudes of difference between who is talking about the problems in the game or who is talking about the good things in the game, and who it is that is just experiencing them without being able to say anything. So in my eyes, when I look at that difference, it's only a problem if Reddit has a very different opinion than the other 12 million people that are in the game or the other 3 million people that are watching. And that doesn't happen that often. And as long as people are aware of it, which Valve, I'm sure, are, I don't think it's necessarily a problem. It's just you always have to take it with a grain of salt. And, I think that they do.
That's true. I mean, as someone, I don't know how often you visit a subreddit. I was a Redditor long before I even got into Dota 2. So when I first got into Dota 2, my first thing was, I'm going to see what the Reddit community's like. And I checked it out, and it's grown exponentially since then. But I don't know. Sometimes it's you start reading all these people, and it seems like over half is just complaining about something going on, and I get it. Sometimes it needs to be, but some things seem a little out of hand,
Oh yeah.
But I guess that's just human nature in a way. So no problem with that.
I mean, let's be real though. Like Reddit definitely is. I don't think it's an issue necessarily, but it's. I think that it serves its purpose. Like, you want to hear if people have complaints, and maybe you don't want to hear it as often. But if you're a decision maker like Valve, you can just turn it off if you want to, and not visit it for that particular thing, or not pay attention to that particular post. I wouldn't be able to handle it personally, but that's just me.
Yeah, I understand that. Being in the public eye, did you have a hard time getting over, like Twitch chat? They can be ruthless sometimes. If you mess up one little thing, they're on you, and it doesn't seem like they let it go. It turns into a meme, and then you're like, "Oh Lord, how did this happen?" But did you have a hard time getting over that? Or are you pretty? Does you just let it brush off your shoulder at this point?
I think that I've gotten off fairly easy with regards to Twitch chat. I tend to not do things that piss them off yet. I do, occasionally get like made fun of or whatever, and every little bit of it sort of sucks. But you sort of either roll with the punches, or you're just gonna, like, if you get upset at every little thing that somebody says, you will go crazy. And I think that it weeds those people out of the Dota 2 community and the Twitch community as a whole, because you're just not going to be able to succeed if you work on it that way. So I would say that I haven't fully been tested in that way. There are people who have gotten it way worse than I in Twitch chat, and I'm still waiting for that other shoe to drop, kind of. But as long as I think I just like it, as long as I feel like I'm doing a good job and I'm doing a good cast and having a good cast, I don't really try to think about too much what Twitch chat says, because while they are sort of the ones who I'm casting for and I'm the audience for, they might be enjoying the cast with me kind of playing the fool or making that thing, and then they think that I'm the worst part of the cast, but really I'm maybe allowing my co-caster to play off of me or something like that. And so
sure,
I don't know. I think that it's sort of, you have to take it with a grain of salt, as I said earlier about Reddit and stuff too.
Yeah, that's anybody who's in the public eye like that kind of has to just learn the deal, I guess.
Well, again, I think, like you said, it's human nature. I feel like most people are more inclined to comment on negative aspects of something than to say positive things. It's like people that have positive thoughts don't normally voice them, but the people that have negative thoughts are very inclined to voice them, especially in the Dota 2 community. Like, the Dota 2 community is so ruthless, I feel.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Yeah. It's not a nice one always.
No, it is not.
I mean, just play a pub and you'll see. Just play one pub and you'll see how ruthless they are.
For sure.
No. So I wanted to talk about a little bit with LGD Forever Young and Monet and Inflame have been having some visa issues.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a little bit weird because Inflame actually already had a visa to come, and he had to, I can't remember if he had to renew it or what the evidence was, but either way, it got denied, and, you know, they're still both trying to get over here. And this seems to be kind of a reoccurring issue every year. A lot of people have said maybe it's time to move the international outside of the U.S. I personally always want it in the U.S. just because, you know, I'm from here. It's a lot easier for me to travel if I ever get a chance to go. But at the same time, I can honestly see where they're coming from. But do you think that maybe, you know, Valve has that maybe in their sights, or if it would be a good idea or not to kind of solve these visa issues?
I mean, I'm sure it's crossed their mind. I think that the hope is that you get to a point where esports is big enough that you don't have to worry about that, because I think it's a lot easier for them to do the international in Seattle where it's close to them. And I think that they can probably put out a better product in Seattle than they could in somewhere else where you maybe don't necessarily know the vendors or the contractors or what have you. You know, there were some rumors about like Key Arena being taken down as well at some point. So you never really know about that. But I kind of agree that I think it's better to have it in the U.S. And it's better probably to work more on solving the visa issues than it is just like sending it somewhere else. Because what, are you just not going to have any tournaments in the U.S. than ever? Like, yeah, I don't know. If you look back on the past year, the only two tournaments that were here for Dota 2 were Boston and TI. And then this most recent one that's come up is the DreamHack in Atlanta. And the only reason that that's happening really, well, maybe not the only reason, but a big part of the reason that I think that that's happening is so teams wouldn't want to, wouldn't have to take a trip out of country to get to TI after the DreamHack. So that sort of is where I'm sitting with it.
I also think there's a big Halo tournament at that DreamHack, and I know
right.
The console is a little bit bigger here in the U.S. than elsewhere. Which that actually brings me to another point. We are actually really close to Atlanta, about an hour and a half away. But I didn't realize when I was looking this stuff up that there's only actually 4 teams that are going to be there. It's Secret, Liquid, Vega Squadron, and Planet Odd. Now, obviously, this is going to be great practice for a Secret or Liquid because Vega and Planet Odd, neither of them are by any means pushover. Both of them could have made it if they play the right game on the right day. My question is, do you think that this is going to be a hindrance to a team playing in these tournaments, or I don't know, you may not have too much insight since you're not a pro player, but do you think that this could potentially hurt them by maybe developing some weird strats that people might actually see?
I think if you're Liquid or Secret, you're not going to be doing anything that's too close to what you want to be running in the group stages. I would imagine, at least, because I remember that this happened last year where Na'Vi, when they went to the summit, they put on a really, really great performance, and particularly built around a lot of Sand King. And they basically dominated that tournament with Sand King. And then lo and behold, when they go to TI, everybody starts playing Sand King. Now, would that have happened if Na'Vi didn't just dominate a tournament with that hero? Maybe it still would have happened, but it might not have happened to the same extent.
Sure.
But I think that if there's something in particular that they think is quite strong, they might be holding that back. Vega Squadron and Planet Odd, they have no reason to try and hold back. In fact, it's decently likely that some of these teams might start switching it up afterwards. I'm not so sure about Planet Odd. Probably more likely would be Vega Squadron getting a mix-up. just based upon the sort of mentality of those players. And because of that, there's a high chance that they just try and do everything that they can to win this tournament and come out on top, because it's a decent amount of money there for everybody as well. So, I mean, if you compare a first place 80,000 USD for a secret or a liquid, they have no reason to want to try and do that. The big thing here is I feel like they're fulfilling their obligations to DreamHack, and maybe gain a little bit of extra practice in beforehand. More likely scrims is going to be the strength of playing in this tournament.
Yeah, they're actually in the country, so they can start scrimming against everybody else that's already here. That makes a lot of sense. But yeah, you bring up a very good point about them not wanting to give too much away, just like Navi last year that did well at the summit, especially considering the group stages this year. Is it the bottom two teams don't make it to the main stage? Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So group stages are going to mean quite a bit this year, I think. And do you have any thoughts on that? Do you have any thoughts about the group stages? Do you think that's okay? I know that a couple, TI4 was it, but there was a lot of teams that didn't make it to. That was the last year, I think, that all the teams didn't make it to the main stage. You think that's a problem, or you think it's good?
I think it's always a little bit tough, but you also had the wild card teams before that would come in, and that was sort of a same type of thing. I think that this is a really good system, and I think that the best thing about it is that you are unlikely to be losing a game completely. Like you're unlikely to have any of the top teams go out in the group stages. You might end up mixing, like, let's say, for instance, of the teams that are there, you have somebody like Empire, right? I feel like Empire, they're not a top team, but they are pretty freaking good. And I think that they could pretty easily get into like around that 9th to 12th spot, maybe even push for a 7th, 8th if they manage to. I think probably 9th, 12th is like their upper end of where they can get to. But let's say that in the group stages they run into a really cheesy strat that's put out by an Infamous or an Execration or something, and then they get knocked down. Suddenly they're in a hard group and they lose to the other worst team in that group, and then they're out of the tournament, whereas you could have said that Infamous group should have lost all their games anyways. It's going to depend a lot upon the seeding. You're not going to lose any of the top teams, but some of the teams that would be in that middle pack might get knocked out when it shouldn't have happened that way. So that's the only thing that I'd be really worried about in the group stages. But again, that's only for specific teams, and I think that it's only for teams in particular that don't have a chance. Like we're not going to see EG get knocked out in the group stages as the bottom team in a group. I just don't think that something like that's going to happen.
Well, I feel like in the past, teams like EG, I could be wrong, but they just didn't take the group stages too seriously. It's like, it's whatever. If we get put in the lower bracket, it's fine. We'll just knock our way through it. I don't know if that was intentional in the past when teams have done this. I think OG did it once and EG did it once. But now I guess they have a little bit more pressure on them.
I think a little bit might have to do it. It's kind of like almost like a boxer, using the first round or two to try to understand the reach of his opponent and kind of thing. And teams like EG were very good at adapting to how the meta changed throughout the group stage. But maybe that's my opinion. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Lyrical.
Oh, I think that that's fairly true. That's what they would do, and they also wouldn't want to give anything away. That's the other part of it, because sometimes group stage just wouldn't matter. Here, you do end up mattering a lot. Like the top 4 teams of each group are going to advance the upper bracket. The bottom team is going to be eliminated. You don't have to worry about if you're a top team, but the bottom, what is it going to be, 4, I guess, would be dropping down to the lower bracket. And if you think about that for the main event, that's only one best of 3 away from getting knocked out of the tournament. I think it's all. Oh wait, no. The lower bracket matchups are all best of 1s also. So
Yes.
you need to get into that. You really, really want to get into that upper bracket, and there are enough good teams that if you don't take the group stages seriously, you get knocked down.
Yeah.
I mean,
so Jenkins was on our show last week, and he was talking about Team Red and when they were going into the open qualifiers, that they had this one strat in particular with IO, and they used it in like first game and just destroyed. Who was it?
That was
Team
the
Freedom?
game. That was the game they beat Freedom. Yeah.